Mum's story at the beginning, she was really talented with computers and doing things, and she had a great deal of pleasure out of it. Not only did she do her story, but she's done one for Dad and me and Keith and Liz as well. And I think it must be the beautiful time.
Well, Sandy's got a far better memory than I have. When I thought back, I thought, you know, as a boy growing up, a mum is always there. But it's really hard to remember what Mum did. So I've just written down a few things that I've sort of remembered over the time. So things were a lot different when I was growing up. Mums didn't have as much to worry about. I can remember at 7 years old, I used to walk nearly a mile to school. I actually Googled it to make sure it just wasn't the little legs. If I was a bit late, there are a lot of shops to look at on the way home. Mum would be waiting at the bottom of the street. She knew what time I should be there. We were allowed to play outside, apparently without supervision, but as soon as any trouble started, she was there. I just could never work out how she knew. When I was quite little, I thought she had a very different view to other mums to discipline. I used to think she used to encourage us to play up. Yeah, when we were fighting and squabbling, she'd come running in saying, keep it up, you'll get what for." Unfortunately, Sandy and Mitt must have got the presents because I never got anything. Mum made sure dinner was always at the table. None of that in front of the TV stuff. It was always around the same time. Just after dark, we'd get called in, time for tea, everybody around the table. As we got older, it was always Mum the homemaker, Dad the breadwinner. Mum was very good at making ends meet, and she was always either sewing, knitting or cooking, as my sister has already pointed out. We didn't corroborate on this, you see, so there's a little bit of overlap. I can remember going to school in a home-knitted school jumper, perfect in fit, colour and style, except it had big stitches, not like the kids who had bought ones. It was many years later that I realised how much skill Mum really had. Mum used to make delicious meals out of simple ingredients, especially desserts. My wife still has to be reminded you can't have a rice pudding without sultanas in it, and let's not even try to match Mum's chocolate pudding. As we grew up, married and had kids, Mum was always there giving advice, if needed, and trying not to interfere. She had a morbid fear of being an interfering mother-in-law, but doted on her grandkids. I moved with my family about 600k away, but I knew Mum was always there, just a phone call away, or a few hours drive. Mum and Dad would drive up and visit us, or we would see them in Sydney. As Sandy said, computers came into their lives. Talk about getting back at your kids. The computer won't do this. Phone calls here and there. The computer won't do that. I've lost this file. The printer won't work. But gradually they got the hang of it, and Mum became very, very proficient. Mum had her computer downstairs. Dad had his upstairs. I'm sure they spent their days emailing each other. In fact, Mum had conquered the digital world so well that I bet she's already organised a forwarding account of her email, so anybody want to talk to, drop her a line. My mum wasn't a famous tennis player like Daniel Court's mum. She wasn't a famous politician like Mark Thatcher's thumb, or a Hollywood actress like Liza Minnelli's mum, but she was my mum. Mum has always been in my heart, and she may have left Rogal Place, but she'll always be there.